Good morning and welcome to Coming Home to Yourself. I am so pleased that you are here with me and Sean today. Over the next 4 days, we're going to take a journey together, not a journey to become someone different, a journey to rediscover and rebuild one of the most important relationships you will ever have, the relationship with yourself. Maybe you joined this event because you found yourself saying yes when you wanted to say no. Maybe you've noticed that a different version of yourself, depending on who you're with, or maybe you've simply reached a place where you're asking, how do I stop feeling like someone else? How do I feel like me? If that's you, you're in the right place. This isn't a class on communication or public speaking, and it isn't about learning the perfect words to say. Instead, we're going to use your voice as a lens to explore something deeper, because the way we speak and the words we say and the words we don't say, the moments that we hold back, the times we speak with confidence, they all tell a story. They reveal the relationship that we are living from, not just with ourselves, but with the people that we love the most. Maybe it shows up with your spouse when you don't know how to ask for what you need. Maybe it's with your children when you find yourself reacting in ways that surprise you. Maybe it's with your parents, where decades later, you still feel like that little girl trying to get it right. Or maybe it's with your friends, where saying, I'm fine, is so much easier than telling the truth. Or maybe it's at work, where everyone else's expectations, they matter way more than your own. Every one of those moments reveals something, and it's not because you've done life wrong, but because every relationship reflects the relationship we're living from within ourselves. And this one, his relationship, is always with standing in front of whatever I'm trying to use as my notes. Over these next 4 days, we're going to discover how the relationship that has been shaped, and these relationships throughout your entire life, we're going to explore the adaptations. This is an important word. Pay attention to it. The adaptations that you have developed, the voices that have gradually become louder than your own, and how to begin consciously rebuilding a relationship with the quiet part of yourself that has always been there. By the end of our time together, my hope isn't that you become someone new. My hope is that you'll leave knowing yourself a little more deeply, trusting yourself a little more fully, and feeling more at home with yourself than you did when you arrived. Over the next 4 days, we're going to walk through what I call the journey home. Every meaningful relationship follows a very similar path. Every day builds naturally upon the day before it. First, we become aware of the relationship we're actually living from. Today, we'll begin by exploring the relationship you already have with yourself. We'll discover that who you truly are never really disappeared. Instead, life gradually taught many of us to live from adaptations that taught us to survive, belong, and be loved. Then we begin recognizing what has shaped it. Tomorrow, we'll explore the many influences that have shaped that relationship: family, culture, religion, expectations, fear, success. We'll even begin recognizing which voices we've adapted to over the years and how they've quietly influenced the choices we make and the way we move through those relationships. From there, we will consciously rebuild that relationship. On the third day, we turn our attention back to the quiet inner part of us that has always been there, not creating something new, simply learning to recognize it, trust it, and strengthen our connection with it. And finally, on day 4, we begin living from it every day. We'll explore what it looks like to live from that relationship, not perfectly, consciously. We'll discover what it means to become the one who listens, considers, discerns, and chooses, allowing the relationship we have with ourselves to naturally transform every other relationship in our lives. That's exactly the journey we are going to take together. I am Deirdre Selby. I'm your host, along with Sean Selby, for this event. Why can I teach you about the journey home? I've taken it. When I was 45, I wasn't home. Or maybe I was about 43, but it was somewhere in there. I was on the verge of suicide. I mean, when I say verge, I was this close. And my son had a mother who was there, but not there. I was on 7 antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications, which they talk about the kids today being zombied out on medications. I was zombied out on medications. I was 329 pounds. I ate every emotion. That night I had a choice. I either took my life or I made a decision to create a life worth living. And the first step on that was to find myself. So this journey I'm leading you on is a journey I have taken. I didn't understand all the pieces, and it took me years and years and years to discover them. Some of them I did the hard way, and some of what I will give you today is going to allow you to do it the easy way. We don't always have to bump our head against the wall for weeks or months or years. Sometimes there are easier ways to get there. I can lead you on this journey because I've lived this journey. Sean, your turn.
Mom had all that. All I can give you as the reason why I can help lead it. I'm Sean Selby. I was born, awoken, could see the dead. And at 9 years old, I started my spiritual journey in in seriousness. Mom took me to teachers to help me figure out who I was and to help me master myself. I am on the autistic spectrum, which made it even more fun learning who I was. But one of the best things you can ever do is chip away at the armor of who you think you are to find out who you really are. I have worked for years with therapists and spiritualists to be able to help teach you this.
So, our focus today, I don't want you thinking about all 4 days because we don't learn when we're looking forward, we learn when we're working in the present. Today, I want you to become curious. What if, and some of us have never lost ourselves, and we still are brilliant. But what if you never lost yourself? What if the relationship with yourself has always been there, even when life got really noisy, when it got really messy? What if your experiences, your joys, your heartbreaks, your struggles never erased who you were? And they simply taught you ways of adapting. If that's true, then today isn't about fixing yourself. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about beginning to notice the relationship that you've been living from all along. And before we go any further, I want you to know something very important to me. You don't have to believe anything I say over these 4 days. And I'd much rather you didn't. Come here curious enough to explore your own experiences and do your own research. Throughout this event, I'll share what I've learned after years of working with people and doing a ton of research of my own because I love science.
We want you to question us, and if you can find somewhere we're wrong, bring it up to us. We will gladly learn from you.
So I invite you into experiences where you can simply notice what you discover for yourself. And then we talk about it together. Some of you may describe those experiences differently than I do. You may call it your authentic self, your deepest knowing, your intuition, your inner wisdom, or you may not have words for it yet, and that's perfectly okay. I'm not asking you to adopt my language. I'm inviting you to become more familiar with your own experience. Words can come later. My hope is that over these 4 days, you'll leave with a deeper relationship with yourself than you had when you arrived. I have a question for you to keep in mind as we go through today. What if the self at your core never stopped being there? So, when did the real you go into hiding? What if, before anyone told me yes, I like that, Cynthia, who anyone told me who I should be, I already knew myself. way back. So before I get really into this, I want everybody to just go into chat and I want everybody to say hello. Um, I like to know who's here. I like to have a record of it. Sometimes I send out goodies. It's good for me to have that. So, you know, we are connected to ourselves at the core. And I call it our soul. Some call it spirit. Some call it the inner self. The term doesn't matter, but it is who you are. And it can never be taken away from you.
Mhm.
It can get lost in the mix, it can get hidden, it can seem to disappear at times, but it is always there. So, neuroscience has proven, and you guys can go look me up on this. The way I say it may not be 100% correct because I don't have notes. My note is neuroscience. So I haven't gotten myself lots and lots of key facts. So I may be off here and there. And if I am, my apologies. This is not a science course. But neuroscience has proven that kids between the ages of about 2 and 5 or 2 and 7, somewhere in there, are basically like sponges. They absorb what goes on around them. And we are designed this way because we need to learn from our environment. If we were to question everything, we would get stuck. We need to take in so much data at this point. There is no time for the prefrontal cortex to be doing its job of sifting out what's right and what's wrong. So we are simply taking it. So when your mother is giving you information, when your father is giving you information, when the preacher's giving you information, you are taking it in as if it is true.
No matter what it is.
And whether you have the best parents in the world or the worst parents in the world, being a parent does not come with a rule book or with a manual. And every one of us comes in to parenting with our own issues and our own problems and those things that we learn to begin with. So we make mistakes, no matter how amazing our intentions are. So kids absorb amazing things and they absorb things that are totally wrong. And all of this gets stored in the subconscious. Every bit of it. And most kids learn that there are certain behaviors that work really, really well with mom. And they create an adaptation for mom. And then they realize that, oh, hey, There are behaviors that work amazingly well with dad, and they develop another adaptation that becomes dad. And then they develop adaptations that have to do with maybe church, maybe when they get into school, maybe there's an Uncle Bill that might not be the safest person. My apologies to every man named Bill. There may be an Auntie Shirley who belittles them or tells them what they cannot do instead of what they can. You know, all these people in their life, they are learning how to navigate their environment and how to stay safe. They are not choosing adaptations, they are absorbing them. This is neuroscience. And the developing brain absorbs before it evaluates. So we have this happening with every person that chooses a human body, a human suit. You choose a human suit, this is going to happen because it's just science. So today we have a whole lot of people, and I'd be willing to bet that if I were born today, I'd qualify among them, that are qualified in various frames as neurodivergent. I know I was always told that my mother was always told that I was not living up to my potential. My behaviors today would qualify for a girl as either autistic or ADHD because I was always staring out the window in a world of my own. And these are pretty typical. But back then, I was just not living up to my potential.
So how many people were like that?
Oh, there were many, many, many. And I mean, these things are not new.
No,
They're
they
not
aren't.
new at all. The only difference is today we have names for them. So, one of the things, um, I'm going to put that on the side burner, Neva, and we'll look at it later. So, one of the things that I find really fascinating is how many amazing ways that children adapt to the world around them. Some naturally fit in to the environment that they're growing up in. Others don't. And it's not because anything's wrong with them. And it's not, I don't personally see anything being wrong with most anybody. But that's another tangent that I'm not going on right now. Most of you have heard a little bit about my growing up, and I'm going to go a little bit there today because it fits here. I learned to be the peacekeeper. It is not my normal, my natural inclination of who I would be. And I learned it because it was absolutely necessary. Because I grew up in a household of violence. And if I could be the peacekeeper, then my mother didn't get beat up and I didn't get beat up. Did it always work? Absolutely not, because I grew up in a violent household. But that tendency to avoid conflict at any cost and be the peacekeeper has followed me my entire life. Yes, I've come home. Yes, I now see it. Now I know it's happening. Now I can choose that adaptation, or I can look at it and go, you're not serving me. I'm not going to bring you out today. You are going away. You know, when children are too much, too sensitive, maybe because they're wired differently, which so very many of us are. If you think in pictures instead of words, if you notice every sound in the room, that was Sean. He was so sensitive to sound.
Mm-hmm.
Some ask endless questions. Some feel emotions so deeply they are way too big for their little bodies. That was Sean too. Some intuitively know things that they cannot explain. None of these qualities are wrong, but they're simply different ways of experiencing the world. But when a child's natural way of being doesn't fit what the people around them expect, they begin receiving messages. Sit still. Stop being so sensitive. You're too much. Don't ask so many questions. You're overreacting. Why can't you be more like your brother? That's not appropriate. And little by little, they learn to adapt. And they adapt even more than others may. And it's not because they're broken, it's because they're brilliant. Hear this. They are brilliant, remarkably intelligent, and they learn what helps them to belong, what keeps them safe, what earns approval, and what avoids rejection. They begin adjusting themselves to fit the world around them. Some adaptations become so practiced that years later we mistake them for our personality. But beneath every adaptation is a younger version of us doing the very best they could do with the life they were living. And that realization changes everything, because adaptations are not evidence that something is wrong with us. They are evidence that something important was happening around us. And when we begin to see them through that lens, shame begins to soften. And compassion naturally steps into its place. To reiterate, parents, family, religion, friends, culture, all experiences help to shape us. And different voices become louder in different situations. Most, if not all, adaptations happen outside the conscious arena. And this happens to everyone. I want to say this loud. Adaptation is not failure. Adaptation is not failure. Adaptation is not losing yourself. Adaptation is survival. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's no need to feel bad about getting to be an adult, about living to be here. You know, your adaptations were all intelligent responses to your life. And you've just spent time being the best form of yourself that you could be in certain situations. So, for years, I taught this differently. I used to call these masks. And you may have heard about taking off the masks. I've got people who have worked with me at taking off the masks. And that worked. I did it myself. I took off the masks. One of the things I teach people is just because we do something one way doesn't mean we have to stay there forever. We can learn, we can grow, and we can change. And just because we've taken off masks doesn't mean we can learn that the same thing wasn't actually a mask. It was actually an adaptation. So there was something about that never felt quite right, but I never knew another way to do it or to say it. There is an assumption when we talk about masks, and that is you're hiding. That when you're wearing a mask, you are hiding something. And that the mask is a problem that needs to be solved. Something needs to be uncovered, and that there's something wrong with those parts of us. So during meditation, I was shown something that totally changed it, and that was the realization they're not masks. They don't need to be taken off. They're adaptations. And an adaptation isn't something to be taken off. It isn't something to be ashamed of. It's something our nervous system created because at the time it was brilliant. Adaptations are not deception. They helped us to belong, stay safe, and survive. We don't need to get mad at our younger selves. We don't need to criticize them. We really need to honor them. Tomorrow, we're going to move beyond this into working with our adaptations and learning how to choose. We'll be connecting with our inner self, and then we'll be working on how to choose whether to go with an adaptation or our actual inner core. So if anyone needs to use the restroom, I'm going to go ahead and give you a moment to take a break. Sean, do you pause the recording or do I?
You do. Mhm.
I don't have the, like,
Under more.
there it is. Okay. So this one is a bit more of an internal journey than some of the experiences I have led in the past. It is always up to you whether you want to be on camera or not. As always, if I do end up working on anybody, I need to see you because that's how my abilities work. So there may or may not be any of that in this one. So this experience is designed to help you feel the difference between your inner self and the adaptations you've learned throughout life. So we're going to go through, and I hope you find it valuable. I invite you to get comfortable, to allow your body to settle, and to simply allow yourself to become present. Take a slow, comfortable breath in and gently let it go. Again, take a slow, comfortable breath in and gently let it go. I invite you to close your eyes and allow each breath to invite your body to soften just a little bit more. As your body begins to relax, go ahead and let your awareness turn inward. And there is no right way to experience what we're about to do. Each of us experience our deepest self a little bit differently. For many people, that connection is felt through the heart. If that's you, you may notice a feeling of warmth, openness, love, compassion, or simply a quiet sense of peace. If it helps, allow yourself to gently bring an awareness to your heart. And others naturally experience their connection a little higher around the brainstem or the pineal gland, almost as though there's a quiet knowing just behind the center of the head. If that feels more familiar, simply allow your awareness to rest there. Some people naturally connect through the third eye or the crown chakra. You may notice light, spaciousness, feeling of expansion, or a gentle awareness above the head. And for some of you, your awareness may not seem to come from one place at all. You may simply experience your deepest self as a quiet presence flowing throughout your entire body, as though every part of you is aware all at once. However, you naturally experience that quiet place within you is exactly right for you. Simply notice. And if you're not feeling anything, that's okay too. Sometimes the deepest connection isn't dramatic. It simply arrives as a quiet sense of peace. Trust your own experience is coming exactly right for you. Now, as you continue to rest in that awareness, I'd like to invite you to gently set aside everything you've been taught about yourself. Let go of your roles. Just for right now, release your successes and your failures. Right now, you are not the labels you've accepted or the stories that you've carried. for the next few moments. You don't need to be who anyone else expects you to be. And as you sit there with no expectations to live up to, you are not your accomplishments or your disappointments. Let go of everything life is placed around you. Not because any of these things are wrong or because they aren't part of your journey, but simply because for the next few moments, we're becoming curious about what remains when all of those voices become quiet. So allow them to rest beside you for a little while. You don't need to throw them away or to judge them. You don't even need to understand them. Just let them become still. And in that stillness, simply notice. Just let go and sit with the emptiness and notice what has always been there. Then begin asking gentle questions. How does this part of you feel? What are you noticing? Is there anything this part of you is asking you to become? Does it need to prove itself? Does it need approval? Remember, the purpose is not to receive answers from the mind. Stay connected to that special part of you that is left when everything else is sitting beside you. Does this part of you feel rushed? Does it feel afraid? Does this inner part of you compare itself to others? Or is it simply present? Now I'd like you to think about someone whose opinion mattered very deeply to you growing up. I'm going to give you some examples. You don't have to use them, and you may. How about a parent? Notice how your body responds. Now think about another relationship, possibly a sibling or an aunt or uncle. And notice how your body responds. Think about a teacher and notice how your body responds. Now a group of friends. Think about wanting to belong. How did that feel in your body? Remember, we've got you energetically, so you are safe and you are taken care of. Think about a time you did not feel safe. How did that feel in your body? Think about a boss. The head of your church or temple. A waiter or waitress who messed up your order. How do these feel in your body? And remember, these adaptations are not mistakes. They are not failures. They are not something to judge or to reject, because every adaptation was once an intelligent response to your life. Every adaptation served a purpose, and they deserve gratitude, not criticism. Now I want you to return to the self at your core. How does your body feel? Now I want you to go back to the adaptations and realize that these came in for a purpose, and feel them. And understand that the self at your core was not able to handle these different situations. It needed to be protected, and it did the best that it could do. So I want you to come back one more time to the self at your core. And I want you to ask the self at your core, what would you like me to remember? I love that Cynthia has a pencil and she's writing it down. When you have your answer, allow yourself to start to come slowly back into your body. And I'm going to invite you to come off mute as I ask a few questions. Whenever you're ready, during this exercise, what did you notice? This experience? Jenna?
Noticed the quietness. It was just quiet. It was very nice.
Is that quite unusual for you?
Yes, but I've been learning to kind of bring that in a little bit more presence is I've been trying to learn, be more present. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Anyone else have anything they noticed that they would want to share? You don't have to, ever.